सर्वेश्वरो मां पाहि प्रभो, सर्वेश्वरा मां पाहि प्रभो, पाहि प्रभो मां पाहि विभो, पाहि प्रभो मां पाहि विभो। लिंगोद्भवरा लिंगेश्वरा, लिंगोद्भवरा लिंगेश्वरा, जगदीश्वरा मां पाहि प्रभो, जगदीश्वरा मां पाहि प्रभो, पाहि प्रभो मां पाहि विभो, पाहि प्रभो मां पाहि विभो। शंभो शंकर सदाशिवा, शंभो शंकर सदाशिवा, सर्वेश्वरा मां पाहि प्रभो, पाहि प्रभो मां पाहि विभो, लिंगोद्भवरा लिंगेश्वरा, जगदीश्वरा मां पाहि प्रभो, पाहि प्रभो मां पाहि विभो। शंभो शंकर सदाशिवा। ओम सहना भवतु, सहनौ भुनक्तु, सह वीर्यं करवावहै, तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। Hari Om friends, I welcome you all to this special satsang on the occasion of Adi Shankara Jayanti. Adi Shankara is one of those who have revived our scriptures and re-established, and its studies, learning, etc. is continued. And likewise, if we have to see, there are so many stalwarts in our country that whenever there is a decline observed Some Mahatma rises on the occasion and he set right the things, revives the scriptural knowledge, propagates to the maximum number, creates students, teachers, and the lineage or what is called as parampara, lineage of teacher and the taught is maintained. Roughly, if you see overall, in the first yuga called as Kruta Yuga or Satya Yuga, it was Kapil Muni who revived the whole Vedic literature by setting an ashram and systematically teaching the students. And he was instrumental in initiating and establishing the Sankhya philosophy. And thus, he can be called as a descent of knowledge. It is a descent to revive the knowledge. You can call it as Jnana Avatar. So in the Kruta Yuga, it was Kapil Muni. Similarly, in the Treta Yuga, it is Sri Guru Dattatreya who revived this Vedic literature again. In the Dwapar Yuga, it was Veda Vyasa who revived it. And in our own times, in Kali Yuga, it is Adi Shankara who revived it. Some 12, 13 centuries ago, he appeared on the scene, whereas there are already 50 centuries past, or Kali Yuga. So when the period was like this, the period was where there were quarrels among different sects of the religion, trying to establish superiority over the other and all that. It is really very difficult for us to understand how Adi Shankara coordinated with all these different sects, and he explained against their accusations or arguments how he convinced them and took them into the overall Hindu fold and set them a discipline by which they can continue their tradition. It is very difficult to understand unless we go through his whole entire life story. It is too much for us. We are indeed kids. If we look at him, we are kids in the field of knowledge. And in the field of knowledge, if Swami Chinmayananda is our father, Swami Tabodh Maharaj is our grandfather, and Adi Shankara is our great-grandfather. Now you can imagine a great-grandchild or a grandchild when it is playing on the lap of his grandfather. Grandfather is trying to entertain him, and the child in its own enthusiasm is trying to wrestle with the grandfather. All kind of wrestling the grandfather allows and shows as if he is defeated by the child. It's all out of love. But similarly, whatever little we are trying to understand, we are wrestling with the ideas that Adi Shankara has given us in his literature. Under the guidance of our Swamiji, we have learned about so far in our Swasthya Sadhana, we have learned his Prakaran Granthas or category books, which introduce to us the terms and terminology used in Vedanta Shastra, Upanishads or Gita. And these category books, around 12 we have gone through. Just to mention few, Atma Bodh, Bhaja Govindam, Swarupanusandhanashtakam, ब्रह्मज्ञानावलीमाला, आत्मषटकम, श्री दक्षिणामूर्ति स्तोत्र, मनीषा पंचकम, साधन पंचकम, विवेक चूड़ामणि, 108 verses selected, and Vakya Vritti, Tattva Bodha, Laghu Vakya Vritti. All these we have covered from in Swasthya Sadhana from 2004 onwards, in Marathi, in English, and more than once. So this is our trying to understand how he presents Vedanta for the students, the beginners as well as advanced. So we have tried to study, and it is in this form we are offering our sense of gratitude to the Master to the best of our abilities. And so today we have taken one of his compositions, which has no name. He has not given any title for that. And it is included in our My Prayer book. No, I mean Prayers unto Him. It is a special collection by Swamiji himself. And in that book also this is given. So Swamiji has given the title Advice to My Mind. It's a composition of 5 verses. So I wondered what could be the reason for him to compose. If on his own, if he has to compose, he would give some topic or title to the composition. But here he has not given any topic or title. And seeing the contents, Chetaha, Chetaha, oh mind, it is an advice to my mind. So this kind of advice, how come he has, I just tried to think over this matter, what made him compose? Something incidental. As we are studying the Gita, we came across in 6th chapter, at the close of the chapter, when everything was covered by the Lord as a yoga, and at the end of it, Arjuna is asking the question. I believe that this could be the event for Acharya to think over again and offer his own proposal or solution to such questions. Now, in the 6th chapter, 32nd verse says, Atmopammena sarvatra samam pashyati Arjuna sukham va yadi va dukkham sayogi paramo mataha. He has already expounded the yoga of self-control, or what is called yoga of meditation or self-control. He has already concluded on this 32nd, and then Arjuna raises the question. Yoyam yogasvaya proktaha samyena madhusudana etasyaham na pashyami chanchalatvat sthitim sthiram. He says to the Lord, this yoga of equanimity taught by thee, O slayer of Madhu, I see not its enduring continuity because of the restlessness of mind. He clearly says, now, after having expounded the whole Yoga Shastra, or the yoga of self-control, Atma Sanyama Yoga, and then he has also said who is the best among these yogis, Sayogi Paramo Mataha. Having said this Arjuna bluntly saying that whatever yoga you have expounded so far, I don't see it is feasible to apply in our life continuously. So when he says that, he gives the reason. What is the reason he says? So the reason he gives is Chanchalatvat Sitim Siram. So Siram Sitim na Pashyami Chanchalatvat. Because of the restlessness of mind, it is not possible for this mind to experience that kind of yoga of sameness, to see everywhere the same thing as consciousness everywhere. It's not possible for this mind though you have expounded the yoga, it is not possible for the mind because the mind by nature is restless. So this chanchalatvat, the word comes here, and here the student is directly questioning, not just questioning, it's not accepting what he has taught. He said it's not possible. See, here clearly says, etasya aham na pashyami. Etasya. What is that? Sthiram sitim na pashyami. So whatever is the yoga of equanimity you are saying, and its enduring continuity, because of the restless of mind, I don't see it possible. So when it's questioning, the Lord says that it is natural. So asamshayam mahabaho mano durnigraham chalam. So the Lord said, O mighty armed one, undoubtedly the mind is difficult to control and is restless. But, O son of Kunti, by practice and by dispassion, it is restrained. It is possible to control the mind, and with a controlled mind, one can practice that yoga and come to appreciate that same vision of reality everywhere. So this he is saying like this. So this particular dialogue I was reminded of when I was going through this advice to my mind, these 5 verses. Because here he starts with that only. Thus, advice to mind is the title. Now, mind requires advice because mind goes mechanically, mind goes impulsively, mind reacts according to the situation. Whatever comes to mind, it immediately reacts to it. Therefore, such a kind of mechanical, impulsive reactions are not going to help us in our life. In other cases where the creatures have only the mind, they are taken care of. But our case is that we have a mind and intellect too. Because of this discerning faculty, because of this discriminative faculty, the intellect will have something to say. And since it is in the ladder of evolution is a gain by human mind, and it is denied to all the less evolved creatures, definitely this intellect has to be given importance in our body politic. And the advice to the mind can be given only by the discriminative intelligence. So this idea is here the first thing. Now, a person whose mind is restless, it is very difficult to get the guidance from his own intellect. Therefore, we look out for these great people who have the great, brilliant intelligence, and they have been advising, teaching, and in their own life they have experienced what they are teaching. Therefore, all such masters should be the proper advisors for us to our mind. Therefore, this is a sort of a project, a new project offered by Acharya for us, for our mind. So here, advice to my mind is given by the great intelligence of Adi Shankaracharya. He must have taken up that issue where Arjuna does not accept that this yoga is feasible or practicable. He says that the mind being restless by nature, therefore it is not possible to experience that state of steadiness of the mind or stillness of the mind that is obtained by yoga. So when it is said like this, Acharya on his own has taken up this project, for whom the Arjuna's is before him, which represents the majority of us. And such a mind, how he can guide us, how he can advise us. So this advice is put up. Now we have got 5 verses and about 1 hour. So hardly 10 minutes can be given for one verse. I will do my best to express whatever I have thought over on this. So we will first chant the verse and then start our discussions on that. I will try to chant twice so that for the second time you try to chant along. चेतश्चञ्चलतां विहाय पुरतः चेतश्चञ्चलतां विहाय पुरतः सन्धाय कोटिद्वयम् तत्रैकत्र निधेहि सर्वविषयान् तत्रैकत्र निधेहि सर्वविषयान् अन्यत्र च श्रीपतिम् विश्रान्तिर्हितमप्यहो क्वनुतयोः विश्रान्तिर्हितमप्यहो क्वनुतयोः मध्ये तदालोच्यताम् युक्त्यावानुभवेन यत्र परमा युक्त्यावानुभवेन यत्र परमा नन्दश्च तत्सेव्यताम्. Is for Shardula Vikridita is a meter, and for this it is a typical tuning with which we usually chant. We'll give you another chanting type kind of tuning also for the next verse. Now here, point by point, he is putting up the project before us. For us or our mind, we can follow his advice and come out of our present state of restlessness. First thing is Chetashanchalatam Vihaya. Chetaha is addressing, O mind, give up your restlessness. Now here it's not a sentence, it is only a part of the sentence. Having given up the sense of restlessness, O mind, this is the first aspect. Now, is it an advice feasible? Just tell the fellow, give up your restlessness, and the fellow gives up his restlessness. Is it possible? That's not possible. But that is not the case here. The case here is now like at present is a present situation is quite conducive for undergoing this exercise. We are confined to our homes. We are not doing anything outside. So we have a little more time available to do something at home. And we can definitely carry out this proposal what Adi Shankara is offering for us. Now for that, the preliminary condition is, please for the time being, give up your restlessness of the mind. I know you are restless in your mind. That is your usual experience. Through your restless mind, you are not getting anything that is happy and contentment in your experience. So at this moment, we want to conduct certain experiment, and for that, the preliminary condition is, for the time being, restore your mind, compose your mind, give up the sense of restlessness, because now you have to do something else. It's not a usual one, it's a special exercise. Then the first thing is that give up your restlessness and compose your mind. And now, next one is Kotidvayam Purataha Sandhaya. There is a balance. And in that, there are two scales which are hooked up to the balance. So first you hold the balance in front of you, Purataha, in front of you, hold the balance, then engage two scales to the balance. This is the second. Now the third stage is Tatraikatram Sarva Vishayan Nidhehi. There in one of the scales to the balance, you place all the objects of the world. Sarva Vishayan, tatra ekatra nidhehi. In one of the scales, you place these all objects of the world that you desire. And anyatra cha Shripatim. And in the other scale, put in the Lord himself. Okay. Now these are the, you can say, 3 further instructions. First instruction is give up your restlessness of the mind and try to compose the mind. Second one is hold a balance in which you have 2 scales. One of the scales you put all the objects together. In the second scale, you place the Lord. Right. Now, the next condition is Vishrantihi hitam api aho kuva. Now, in among these 2 scales, now you yourself honestly tell where is the sense of restful repose, Vishrantihi, and the another one is hitam. So, where is the sense of balance? We can say here the translation goes like this. Reflect, alochatam, reflect. Wherein lies the greater peace and greater good? Vishrantihi, hitam cha. Among these 2 scales, honestly tell me, where lies the real sense of peace or rest and the good, the ultimate good of your life, in your life. Now for this, finding out where lies our peace and the goodness, you need a means. What are the means? Yuktya va anubhavena. These are the 2 means available because you have not accepted Shrutya as first means. Arjuna has not accepted what Lord has said, that this, I don't think this is possible. So when you say like this, you are not accepting what the Shastra is telling us. So Shrutya is given out of question. Now 2 things are left out, Yuktya and Swanubhutya. So Yuktya va anubhavena. You check up based on your reasoning, Yuktya, and your experience. Tell me what is reasonable, which one will reasonably give you peace of mind, and in which lies your ultimate good. As we have said, the path of the good and path of the pleasant, where lies your ultimate good? You yourself reflect on this. He is giving it to us only. So we have to conduct this exercise wherein one place our experience with the world of objects, one scale, and experience with the Lord, another thing. So this is, we have to understand what is this. Can anyone place the Lord in the scale? Is it possible for any ordinary man to keep the Lord in one scale and all objects in other scale? It's not possible. Now when it is not possible, how do we understand it? We should understand that experience related to the world of objects and the experience related to the Lord and His glory, these 2. So finally, it comes to this, that what is your experience? Which experience is giving you a peace and leads you to the ultimate good? This is the question. Please reflect over this. This is a project for us. Now, this is the third line. Vishrantir hitam apyaho kvanutayoho madhye tadalochatam. Tayoho madhye, among these 2, where lies the sense of rest or peace and the sense of goodness? Tadalochatam. Please reflect on this. Then, how do you reflect? Based on your sense of reasoning and your experience so far. then yatra paramanandaha tatsevyatam. Among these two, from whatever scale of experience, you get that ananda, the unalloyed joy or bliss. From among these two, from whatever scale, you get the bliss, experience of bliss. Please accept that and experience that. Go ahead. So here in the first verse, we are given a freedom to observe on our own based on our reasoning and so far experience. Compare the experiences of the world of objects on one side and compare the experiences of joy which belongs to the Lord. These are the two things we have to reflect upon. Now, where do we get the experiences? Now, the experiences of the outer world of objects is day in and day out we are going through. And how it is initiated? Two ways it is initiated. It is first initiated in our vasana, when it first time manifests in the intellect as desire. Then I become conscious of desire. When I become conscious of desire, my mind gets restless. So the restlessness starts at the root of the game. Moment the desire appear in my mind or intellect, my mind gets restless. Now when it gets restless, then the intellect comes to a rescue and plans for the desire fulfillment program. So intellect helps the mind how we should go about in fulfilling this desire. So his planning and all strategies coming from the intellectual level are being executed by the mind. When these strategies and planning comes, again the mind becomes restless, because in case if doesn't go well, suppose we are applying this particular procedure according to the scheme or planning. If there are any problems in that, then what do we do? So this kind of worries start coming into the mind, and mind becomes all the more restless. When it comes to the actual working in the field, mind is anxious for what? The desire fulfillment. Desire will be fulfilled only in the experience of happiness. That is what is expected out of a desire fulfillment. So, looking forward for happiness, again it is worried whether so far I have not been successful, whether this time I will be successful, or suppose while working on this desire fulfillment program, if there are any problems in between, obstacles, obstructions, thus it gets worried over, gets excited, and gets anxious about when will it get the fulfillment of desire, when will it become happy. With all this excitement, in case the desire is fulfilled, rare case, if the desire is fulfilled, then it does give mind some sense of happiness or fullness. And for the time being, as a result of desire fulfillment, the man closes his eyes as though he got everything, whatever he wanted. Going through those moments of happiness is going through the experience of bliss, and is going through the experience of fullness or completeness. But unfortunately, this bliss or sense of joy does not last for long. Soon after this desire fulfillment, as a result of this, 10 more desires crop up in the place and demand their fulfillment. This is one thing. Secondly, when a given desire is fulfilled, related to that fulfilled desire, there are so many further things to be taken care of. in order to maintain that sense of fulfillment. Therefore, he is worried about planning the requirements, like for instance, a desire for a son. If one desires for a son, and suppose he gets the son, then that moment of joy lasts for few moments, and afterwards immediately it is bothered about the further arrangements for the maid servants to take care of the child, and that onwards it goes to even advanced admission in the school, even at the time in the first early period. So there are so many worries immediately followed by a fulfillment of a given desire. And before that also you were taking care of it, how you would prepare for it, etc. So before fulfillment of desire, after fulfillment of desire, mind is restless. In between, for few moments, it finds its bliss or joy, which is a same quality, finding a sense of fulfillment, completeness, but it doesn't last for long. Therefore, that momentary happiness, which is preceded by earlier worries and anxieties, and followed by the future bothersomes that you have to take care of, it amounts to only sorrow, nothing else. Therefore, result is the restlessness of the mind. Mind continues to be restless. Now it is taken over by 10 more desires to be fulfilled. And thus, a program of desire fulfillment is a big issue for the restless mind, how to take care of it, even though the intellect is available for planning it, etc. Still, the mind has to execute it, and it is loaded with the worries of the past, anxieties for the future, and the excitements in the present. Therefore, it all through it remains restless. Now, this is the experience of man with reference to the objects of the world outside. We have seen that in one scale we have put all the objects, desirable objects of the world. And he got the experience of joy, all right, but it was momentary. Therefore, preceded and followed by the number of agitations and restlessness, that momentary joy does not mean anything to him. Now the second experience he says is the same experience of joy, whether you get it alone without reference to the world of objects, emotions and thoughts. Now reasonably he has to think over his experiences throughout the 24 hours of the day. When he scans through his experiences, he appreciates that in the deep sleep state, there is an experience of joy. And in spite of absence of body, mind, intellect, and absence of the world of objects, emotions, and thoughts, absence of Mr. Perceiver, Feeler, Thinker, I, all these fellows are absent, and still there is an experience of bliss. Now, this is another experience. Now, this bliss is full and complete, and it lasts as long as the deep sleep lasts. Then it is disturbed by again the set of vasanas, which brings him into the dream state, and later on he becomes awake. That is different. But during the 24 hours, we can say that the bliss experienced in the deep sleep does not belong to him as such. He has not put forth any efforts, no planning, no efforts, no worries, anxieties. Moment he goes to deep sleep, he experiences the joy. Now, this kind of comparison, in one scale, he has put all the desirable objects in on one scale, and he is trying to gain the moments of happiness by fulfilling the desires related to those objects. On the other scale, he is trying to put the Lord, in a sense, The nature of the Lord is endless bliss. And this endless bliss is enjoyed by the Lord because He is in the medium of pure sattva. So He enjoys the endless bliss. But because the jiva, individual, represented by Arjuna here, we are all, ours is malina sattva or impure sattva. So in impure sattva, still the joy will be experienced, bliss will be experienced whenever we are free from the conditionings of body, mind and intellect. And this happens only in the deep sleep state. In the deep sleep state, there is no, the body, mind and intellect are all inoperative, and therefore they are as good as absent. And whenever the consciousness transcends these conditionings, the nature of consciousness as bliss is being experienced by the individual. So he says, this is your experience. Now when you wake up, you analyze that by your logic or reasoning, and then see wherever you get a real bliss. The bliss that is obtained for a moment during the day by fulfilling the desires is momentary, and the bliss that is available in the deep sleep state is in its pure condition and without the interference of body, mind, intellect. Among them, you have to reasonably give credit to the joy or bliss that is available in the deep sleep. Now reasoning he has to continue further with the help of the guidance from our Acharya. He has to see how this bliss in the deep sleep state can be brought in the waking state in spite of BMI, body, mind, intellect, in spite of conditioning, how we can continue to enjoy that bliss. The bliss was available without BMI. Now, how can a bliss can also be made available in spite of BMI operating? And the answer to this is meditation. In meditation, in the waking state, you can bring the similar, no, not the same, but similar conditions of the BMI equipments as immediately inoperative, the mind being free from thought, and that state of mind being of pure sattva, the consciousness manifests as joy or bliss. So this bliss is then experienced at the seat of meditation as well. Now here it is said, wherever you get the bliss, choose that and enjoy that bliss. This is the first exercise. You have to evaluate your experiences with the world of objects and experiences with the world of the Lord. The Lord is in the hearts of all, and the Lord is available when we are away from our equipment, body, mind and intellect. We are away from our equipment only in the state of deep sleep. So whenever we are in a state of deep sleep, we are with the Lord, and His presence is experienced as bliss. Therefore, this is how we can immediately interpret for the first verse that the experiences related to the world of objects and experiences when you are with yourself without conditioning, these are the two levels of experiences. In the deep sleep, there are no equipments of experience. There is no experiencer as PFTI. There is no world of objects, emotions and thoughts. And still you get the experience. So that kind of experience is unique. And you did experience the bliss. Therefore, that is taken up further for inquiry. Now, the actual advice starts. The overall project is this, that we have to compare our experiences with the world of objects and our experiences when the instruments of experiences are not available, whether we can get the bliss, and compare them. Wherever you feel that there is a bliss, you experience and enjoy that bliss. That was the suggestion in the first verse. Now let us see what the second verse says. एतस्माद्विरमेन्द्रियार्थगहना एतस्माद्विरमेन्द्रियार्थगहना दायासकदाश्रयात् श्रेयो मार्गमशेष दुःखशमन व्यापारदक्षं क्षणात् स्वात्मी भावमुपैः सन्त्यज निजाम् कल्लोललोलाङ्गतिम् मा भूयो भज भङ्गुरां भवरतिम् चेतः प्रसीदाधुना Oh, here the instructions are coming directly from the Acharya. Earlier, the first verse asked us to experiment and compare the experiences related to the outer world and related to the Lord. The Lord is available in us in the form of pure consciousness, and his nature is bliss, which can be experienced by the individual. The Lord himself is available whenever we are free from the upadhis, conditioning, and we do get experience of the bliss. This happens in the deep sleep state. And our world of experiences, in the experience in the outer world as well as in our dream world, are very well known to us, and it does not give us the sense of peace and balance to the mind. Mind ever remains as restless. So this is the first exercise given to the individual. Ask him, by your own reason and your own experience, decide where exactly lies the real bliss. And wherever you find, please go ahead and enjoy it. Now the second verse says, all of you have translation with you, so we will not go much with the translation. That is just for the reference. Now first says, etasmat indriyartha gahanat ayasakat virama. First of all, what you have to do is stop. Virama, the first instruction given by Acharya is, first of all, taking strenuous efforts for the sake of sense objects, indriyartha, indriyasya indriyartheshu, indriyani indriyartheshu, the sense organs and sense objects. So here when you say indriyartha, so for the sake of sense objects, you are taking strenuous effort for what? Acquiring the desirable object, possessing them, aggrandizing with them, and trying to enjoy in their company the sense of happiness. Now these all involve lot of efforts, from planning onwards to executing at the level of body and sense organs. All this involves and leads to the restlessness of mind. So the first thing in our attempt of this experiment, as advised by Acharya, is we have to stop taking extra strenuous efforts for what? For the sake of sense objects. Now, the arrangement made by the Lord is, in order that we should get the experiences, due to our own past vasanas, past impressions, Lord has created lokas. 7 lokas are created. The lokas are fields of experiences. Lord on one side has provided us the vasanas, and on the other side provided us the field for experiencing the results of those vasanas. So these, and in between the vasana and the fields of experiences, he has provided us the equipments by which we can experience. Then equipments have been provided with the powers inherent in the equipment. The body has been given the power to act and perceive. The mind has been given a power to desire or aspire, and the intellect has been given a power to know. So we can equip our equipments with the related powers and execute or come to experience what we have already in given to us. So, as it is described in our Mundaka Upanishad or earlier Aitareya Upanishad, you consider it as a 3-story building, ground plus 3. Okay. At the ground or basement, each jiva has to go to the basement, collect his lot of vasanas, and according to the vasanas, he will be led to the story of the building, there to stay there and experience the results of all those vasanas. This is the arrangement. So accordingly, every jiva is allotted a given set of vasanas and the given arrangements of lokas to enjoy. Why 3? Because we have got 3 lokas to start with: Bhurloka, Bhuvarloka, and Swarloka. And all our dealings with the world of objects make us do up and down from Bhurloka to Swarloka and back to Bhurloka. This is going on. This is the general plan of the Lord, and it may be for his own game, that he has provided certain lot of vasanas to different individuals, different living beings. He has provided the fields for experience. He has provided the equipment for experience, and he has provided a sense of individuality for him to experience, go through that experience of his prarabdha. Therefore, every system is kept there. Now you don't put additional strenuous efforts for the sense enjoyment. You will get in the due course by the allotted quota a given set of happiness and sorrow. You are bound to get, nobody can deny that, because you are already programmed to that effect. Therefore, now one thing what you can do is first stop what creating cultivated desires and going after them for fulfillment, and creating another parallel line for you, which will in fact give, instead of giving you a more happiness, it will complicate the existing system of the Lord. So first stop that. So here the first advice is etasmat indriyartha mahanat ayasakat. Ayasa is a great effort, and mahanat means the strenuous great effort. Stop, virama. This is the first instruction. Don't again start your parallel system of going into the world and cultivating desires in your mind and then trying to execute that desire. As the desires comes in the intellect, just recognize it and watch how it is processed through mind, sense organs, and the body and the world outside. How it is executed, how the given situation, a given vasana comes out and gives you a given experience. So this scheme is already designed by the Lord. Therefore, as a human being, you don't have to go like any other less evolved creatures, go through the prarabdha as helplessly. You have been given the intellect, therefore you have some special self-effort and a special power to know, which nobody else has got. So these powers, in order to use that, first of all, stop using this self-effort for acquiring the worldly pleasures with a special extra effort by cultivating the desires and continue the game. Stop this. That is the first instruction. Then Nijam kallola lolam gatim santyajya. Then you give up. What is to be given up? Here you can see the translation. We can the first thing is kallola is disturbance, turbulence. Kallola is usually with the waves. When the rising waves or the high tide waves, it is called kallola. And kallola lolam, your attachment to this of this turbulent mind for the sense objects, etc. Now that you have to give up. Santyajya. What is to be santyajya? Nijam kallola lolam gatim santyajya. So here it is said, you can satisfy the senses, do not exert strenuously to gain the objects which the worldlings run after to possess. Seek internal peace which can destroy sorrows and lead to salvation. This is a general translation given. So in order to lead to that peace of mind which is within us, peace is another word for bliss. Ananda, another word is peace. Ashantasya kutas sukham, Gita raises a point. If you are restless, there is no hope for joy. And therefore, the peace of mind only is a fit medium for us to experience bliss. So this aspect. For this, what you have to do is, at this moment, your gatim, your present way of going out, and for what? With the turbulent mind, please give up this idea and restore your mind to a peace instead of turbulence. The turbulence is indicated by the term kallola, and lola is attachment. Your mind goes out with turbulence and attachment for the world of objects. Now this is unhealthy condition of the mind to get the joy or the bliss. Therefore, immediately give up this. And now the next condition, the next instruction given is Ashesha Dukkha Shamana Vyapara Daksham Shreyo Margam Swatmi Bhavam Cha Upaihi. The second set says that withdraw your mind from the being turbulent and attached to the world of objects. Having withdrawn that mind, now the next instruction is this, now take it to what? Take it to Shreyo Marga, the path of the Shreyas, the path of the good. The path of the good was already referred earlier. The path of the peace or path of the good. You have to choose the path of the good. Earlier, what he was doing was on the path of the pleasant. Whatever his mind liked or pleased with, he desires and he tried to fulfill those desires with the world of objects. Now he has to give up all that idea, restore the mind to a good composed balance, and now apply it on the path of the good instead of path of the pleasant. So Shreyas is the term used here, and we are aware about the two different paths described in Kathopanishad, the path of the good, Shreyas, and path of the pleasant, the Preyas. Whatever mind feels good, it goes after it and suffers, becomes restless. This is path of the Preyas. And path of the Shreyas is the one which leads us to the lasting good. Now the lasting good is here indicated by the term Shreyo Marga. And how is it? Ashesha Dukkha Shamana Vyapara Daksham. This path will ensure you that whatever is the balance, entire sorrows will be pacified. By going by this path, your entire sorrows will be pacified, and nullified in your own bosom, and this will enable you to reach your own self. Swatmi bhavam upaihi. Equipped like this. How you are equipped? You are equipped by mind, which has given the turbulence due to the world of objects. It is restored to peace, and then it is given up the attachment, and the turbulence is already given up. Then it has chosen to the path of the good, and on the path of the good, which ensures us completely wiping out clean all the sorrows and dukkha shamana. It means that they will be pacified by this path of the good, and then after that, having come to the path of the good, now you have to think of the self. So the greater peace, and here it is translated, the second paragraph, that know your own real nature. Swatmi bhavam upaihi. Restrain all profitless moments. Never seek what is transitory and liable to destruction. This is the next. Bhanguram bhavaratim bhuyaha ma bhaja. Don't seek the reveling in the world of objects, which are bhanguram, which are subject to end or change, which are perishable. Don't go after the experiences of the world which are perishable, which have a beginning and an end. We had the discussion about Sat and Asat already. So with that effect, we have seen this, that don't seek the transitory pleasures, bhavaratim, reveling in the transitory pleasures of the related to the world of objects, and because they are perishable, bhanguram. And lastly it is said, chetaha, O mind, now with all equipped like this, now proceed, be pleased with a sense of cheerfulness, which is a characteristic of such a mind. The mind that is withdrawn from the outer world, mind that is composed and peaceful, and mind that is led on the path of the good, and finally mind that is led on the contemplation upon the nature of the self. Such a mind now will reach the sense of cheerfulness. Proceed is a sense of cheer. It is otherwise called as prasannata. Proceed or prasad, both are same. Prasadastu prasannata. So a cheerful disposition of the mind is what is now here required. We have to seek that. So adhuna, now equipped like this, O mind, now take to this disposition of cheerfulness. Your mind will be pleased by all these efforts, and now you are employing that mind for contemplating upon the nature of the self, and now this mind will lead to the cheerful disposition, and that please take to that disposition. Now let us see the third verse. Bhoga bhangura vrittayo bahuvidhaha. Bhoga bhangura vrittayo bahuvidhaha. Taireva chayam bhavaha. Taireva chayam bhavaha. Tatkasyeha krite paribhramatare. Tatkasyeha krite paribhramatare. Lokakritam cheshtitaihi. Lokakritam cheshtitaihi. आशापाशशतोपशान्ति विशदम् आशापाशशतोपशान्ति विशदम् चेतः समाधीयताम् चेतस्समाधीयताम् कामोच्छित्ति वशे स्वधामनि यदि कामोच्छित्ति वशे स्वधामनि यदि श्रद्धेयमस्मद्वचः श्रद्धेयमस्मद्वचः. Now here it said bhogaha, bhogaha, the enjoyment of your desires. So bhogaha, how bhangura vrittayaha, bahuvidaha, because you are after the pleasures of the world which are perishable, bhogaha, bhangura vrittayaha. The actual pleasures in the outer world are available in the form of vritti or thoughts, and these vrittis have come from the vasanas. So already vasanas have given rise to a thought form called as desires. Desires has agitated the mind, another vritti. So this is all basically your thoughts within. Bhogaha bhangura vrittayaha. Bhangura vrittayaha means they are the thoughts related to the pleasures of the world. They have a beginning and the end. Bhogaha bhangura vrittayaha. They are bahuvidaha. There are several thoughts of a variety and multiplicity. Therefore, there is no end to it. How many thoughts related to the desirable object are coming in the mind as to be possessed, acquired, etc. And those thoughts are really later perishable. They don't remain continuously. Now, for such a thoughts, what you are doing is you are trying to execute those ideas. So once the desire comes into the mind gets restless, and the intellect plans for the fulfillment, and the person engages in the fulfillment of the desires and tries to get the happiness. Now this kind of thing is going on, and he said, Tasya tat kasya krite paribhramate. Why are you wandering like this? Do you get anything out of this? Whatever you get is subject to end. Bhangura vritti. So this is bhogaha bhangura vritti. Whatever you enjoy, let us say that all your efforts succeed and your desires fulfilled, then even the enjoyment that you have got are subject to end. They are perishable. Then why are you wandering in this? Are you satisfied with the piece of joy, a pieces of joy put together? So any number of limited pleasures put together will never be equal to infinite bliss. Even in mathematics we know n number, summation of the n number of series will not be equal to infinity. And calculus may say it tends to infinity, doesn't mean infinity. So this is the idea here, that if you are getting the limited joys, then all the summation of the number of joys that you have enjoyed will never be equal to the infinite joy. Then why are you wondering? This is the question put up. Then what good does it come out of this evil desire? The desire is considered here as evil. If you have faith, now first of all he is asked, that is playing a game of a fool. He is fooling himself by going around the world, entertaining desires related to the outer world and getting some flickers of happiness, some crumbs of happiness on the road. And is by picking up this, he will not get the lasting joy. Then why should he wonder? So first, trying to convince him that his present occupation in the world with the hope of getting happiness is actually not advisable to continue. So he should stop that. For that, what he should do? He said, these are special word used, Kamochitya vashe swadhamani. Simply destroy these desires. This is the advice. See the translation how it goes. Now he says, you are following a wrong path. You are not getting the desirable state of bliss by following this. Therefore, if you are convinced that this your path is not correct, and further, if you believe that what I am saying, if you believe in my words, if you have a faith in my words, says Acharya, then please listen to my advice regarding this game of desire fulfillment. What is his advice? Kamochitya vashe swadhamani. This is the first. So if we have to go by the sequence of this advice, then we have to say first, Yadi asmat vachaha shraddeyam, if you believe and have a faith in what I am going to suggest you, advice, then the first advice mine is that in your dwelling place, what is the dwelling place of desires? In the 3rd chapter it is said, body, mind and intellect are the 3 places where this desire, the kama, is our number 1 enemy, is operating through these 3 levels. So here it is indicated that Swadhamani, in your own within, in your own house, he has got 3 places. And what you have to do is blast those places of desire, where usually this enemy has camps on these 3 places, body, mind and intellect. You blast those camps. That is first thing he said. This is exactly the advice of the Lord in chapter 3. When the Arjuna asked the question, Atha kena prayuktoyam papam charati purusha. Lord says, Kama esha krodha esha rajoguna samudbhavaha mahashano mahapapma vidyena miha vairinam. This is your number 1 enemy. The number 1 enemy is your desire, and or the otherwise called as anger. So this is your basic problem in the world within you, in your own house. And therefore what you should do in this, if you believe, if you have a faith in one word, then by all power in you, gather all the strength in you and blast this network of desire and expectation. Within, not outside. In the outer world, we are not effective in doing anything. Instead, the desires have their source within. In our own mind, in our own within, the desire is operating. Right from causal body, subtle body, gross body, it is operating at 3 levels. Blast their network. Network means the intellect planning for the desires, and the mind working for the plan, and then intellect is the body getting executed through the plans, through work and activity. All these things, first give up all these ideas. Don't work for the fulfillment of your desires related to the outer world. This is the first thing. For that, everything is within, not outside. Therefore, blast these desires which is operating through these different levels. This network has to be blasted, and that is within us. And then what you say, Chittetas Samadhiyatam. Having quietened your mind by withdrawing from the outer world, engage that mind in contemplation related to the nature of the self or the nature of the Lord. Chetas Samadhiyatam, that's the advice, last one. And now we go to the 4th verse. Now first 3 verses in 1 meter, and they indicate to you, they give us the freedom to watch your own experience related to the outer world, your own experiences related to the inner world when it is inoperative, how do you get the experience of bliss? In both cases, the bliss is experienced, it is time bound, but in the second case, deep sleep state, your BMI equipments are not involved. Now you have to find out at the seat of meditation how you can get the bliss without making use of body, mind, intellect in their usual operation. So this idea is already introduced in the first. How his present ways of life are wrong, negative, and they will not serve the purpose that he wants. And he wants the eternal bliss, and for that, what he has to do is first suggested in the second and third verse. Now, in the fourth and fifth verse, he is giving you a positive advice. Now, that positive advice, let us see the verse number 4. Idam shariram parinamapeshalam. Idam shariram parinamapeshalam. Patatyavashyam shlatha sandhijarjaram. Patatyavashyam shlatha sandhijarjaram. Kimaushadai klishyasi mudha durmate. Kimaushadai klishyasi mudha durmate. Niramayam Krishna rasayanam piba. Niramayam Krishna rasayanam piba. Now he is talking about the body on which he is fully dependent, because all the inside plans and proposals are executed at the level of body and sense organs in the outer world, and he has much more dependence upon this physical body. Now see, idam shariram. Now this body of yours, Swamiji Acharya uses all scriptural terms. In 13th chapter we have started this, idam shariram, kaunteya. So here also, idam shariram. How is this body? It is parinama. Parinama is viparinamate. It is modifying. Every now and then it is modifying. It is not the same. Keeps on changing. And this kind of modification is called as vikaras. They keep changing. And peshalam. Peshalam means it becomes weak as the age advances. It becomes weak. So this parinama, peshalam. The two words are used here. So parinama is it modifies. Peshalam, it goes weak as the age advances. Then shlatha sandhi jarjaram. Shlatha, it becomes loose. The skin becomes loose and lousy. All organs becomes ineffective as the age advances and slackens, so to say. Shlatha, it slackens. The tight nerves and the hard muscles, etc., all that goes off and it becomes loose and lousy. Shlatha, and sandhi jarjaram, it becomes infirm as the age advances. It becomes weak and infirm. And it says avashyam patati. Please know for certain, it is definitely going to fall down dead. Don't have any doubt about it. Everywhere it is happening like this, it is going to happen in your case also. Your body is also bound to fall down dead. As the age advances, it will first keeps on modifying, viparinamate, then apakshiyate, it will start reducing, weakening, loosening, slackening, becomes infirm, and finally becomes old, jarjaram, and then definitely it is going to fall down dead. Avashyam patati. Take this fact in your consideration. Then he says, Mooda, oh fool, why are you further bothering the body by your medicines? This is another advice given to it. The medicine, use of medicine is not going to work in your favor. According to the body will go according to the program. Body has already got the program of prarabdha. till that prarabdha is exhausted, body is not going to die. So whether you are in the coma or in ICU or in anywhere, you will not die unless your prarabdha is over. If that is the case, why unnecessary further bother your body for the medicines, by the medicines? Because once we are injecting the medicines, we are disturbing the system, first of all. Whether for good, bad, indifferent, we don't know how it will react. So this is suggestion that why bother by medicines further? Already the body is going its own way and it is definitely going to fall down dead. Now what should we do then? An alternative medicine here is suggested, Niramayam Krishna Rasayanam Piba. Please drink this elixir, the Krishna. This is what Swamiji translates it. There is another Amrutam, another drink available which is specially made by Krishna, meaning the Krishna himself or his Upadesha, his words of advice available in Gita, they become Dugdamrutam, and this is the best medicine for you. Don't bother about the body. Body will be taken care of by Prarabdha. Now you take care of yourself. For that, you need to drink the elixir, the Krishna. It is the special medicine. It's a very beautiful suggestion. It is not easily available. It's not available in any medical stores. This Krishna elixir and all that it is said. So this Krishna Rasayanam is available in the form of advice in Gita, basically, and therefore you take that. Now this is the first phase of advice. The second phase of advice is detailing out why you should take this Shri Krishna Divya Ushadam. So we go to the fifth paragraph. The first thing is his attention is withdrawn. In the fourth paragraph, his attention is over attention, extra attention is withdrawn from his body, and he said that body is going by rules and laws. So in time it will go old, get modified, get loosened, weakened, etc. And at a moment it will fall down dead. So this particular charted path of the body is set right already by nature. You can't do much about it. So this, instead of this, why bother about that? Instead, for your mind, this is advice to the mind. Oh mind, please take care of yourself, not your body. And you need this Rasayanam, Krishna Rasayanam you need, which is available in the word form, advice in the Bhagavad Gita. Now they're going to the fifth verse. Lastly, it says, Vyamoha prashamaushadam munimano. Vyamoha prashamaushadam munimano. Vritti pravrityaushadam. Vritti pravrityaushadam. Daityedrartikaraushadam trijagatam. Daityedrartikaraushadam trijagatam. Sanjeevanaikaushadam. Bhaktatyantahitaushadam bhavabhaya pradvamsanaikaushadam. Shreya praptikaraushadam pibamanaha. Shreyam praptikaraushadam pibamanaha. Shri Krishna Divya Ushadam. Shri Krishna Divya Ushadam. You will wonder, the whole verse is detailing out the different characteristics of the medicine, the Krishna's medicine, which will work differently on different patients. This is the best medicine, the only medicine which will work on different kinds of patients with their different problems and complaints. It will work differently, but it is for their own good. Now this is most beautiful. This gives us the idea that we have also got this three-storied big hospital. The Lord has created three lokas, Bhurloka, Bhuvarloka and Swarloka, as three different levels of hospitals. And all the jivas, whatever, all the living beings are his patients. The whole three lokas, all the three worlds is the area of his hospital. He himself is the doctor and he has only one medicine prescribed, his own medicine, a special proprietary medicine, you can say. And this medicine he prescribes to all the living beings in general and that of human in particular, all human beings in particular. How this medicine will help, we can terrest the whole thing into 7 lokas. We have already got 7 lokas. He is mainly concerned with 3 lokas and then his medicine itself will work to push the patient into the 4th loka, after which the medicine will help him go up to the end till he reaches Satya Loka. Now each loka has got different results. The results that are available in the first 3 worlds are different. They make the person come back again and again from the 3 lokas. But then to pass him to the 4th loka, also this medicine works. And then it reaches him to the last Satya Loka and gives him the infinite bliss. Infinite bliss that belongs to the Lord. The Lord is total mind. Total mind at this moment is full of bliss because it is purely sattvic. Our jiva's mind is impure sattva. It is not sattvic but mixed up with rajas and tamas. Therefore, ignorance, avidya and agitation due to rajas, these are the impurities in our mind. Therefore, we also enjoy the bliss but not consciously in our deep sleep state, unwittingly. So this is our condition. So we are patients in Dr. Krishna's hospital, which is available in all the 7 worlds are his places of hospitals. All the patients therein are his patients and there is only one medicine and that is called Shri Krishna Divyaushadam. How it will work, it is a job, this is a homework for all of us to work on this project and therefore he says Shri Krishna Divyaushadam He Manaha Piba. O mind, please drink or take this medicine which is divine medicine from Lord Shri Krishna. Now what is the kind of medicine, what is the speciality of this medicine is we have to test it properly, grade it properly, though it is not here listed in the same grade, but we can take it. First thing is Vyamoha Prashamaushadam. This medicine will first work on those patients which are the victims of delusion. Majority of us are victims of delusion in this world. So we are in the Mrityu Loka, the Bhur Loka, and we are all the victims of delusion. This medicine will work us so that the delusion is blasted. You know the Bhaja Govindam is otherwise called as Moha Mudgara. It is the pounding rod, Mudgara, Musala, the pounding rod on delusion. If you follow the ideas in the Bhaja Govindam, it will clear your delusion. So here, this Aushadam is basically first it will work on all those victims of delusion due to ignorance, Vyamoha. Then second one, after having cleared the delusion, then it is described as Muni Mano Vritti Pravruttya Ushadam. Muni, the one, Manana Shilavan Munihi. The Muni is one who has reflected and reached the level of knowledge and his vritti. Now his thoughts are all loaded with knowledge These thoughts will motivate us, inspire us. If we take this elixir de Krishna or Divya Rasayanam, Divya Ushadam, then the Krishna's words of advice will inspire us, inspire our thoughts, our pravritti. Pravritti, it will motivate us to undertake or do good. And these are all caused by vritti. Vritti means thoughts which are related to Muni. So all those jnanis, their thoughts loaded with knowledge will motivate us. Our mind will be exposed to those motivating forces if we take this medicine. So this medicine will work on those who are cleared from the delusion. Now their mind is available for getting motivated. The thoughts of the Munis, which are given in the form of Gita by the Lord, that medicine will start motivating him for the thoughts of the good. This is second one. Third one is Daityedrartikaram. Arti is agony or pain. Many times the people misspelled Arti as A-R-T-I. This Arti means pain and agony. Arati means reveling to the full. There is a difference. So here Daityedrarti, the wickedness. Daitya represents the wickedness or the what we call it that the evil-minded people. This medicine will work as a terror for him. It will be artikaram. They will be agonized by this medicine. Those which are of the evil tendencies, those patients, when they take this medicine of Krishna, they will be terrified and agonized by that medicine. They need to be agonized. They must know that by handling the evil thoughts, they are bound to suffer. Medicine will give them this understanding. The next one is, having given these three, it is as though relieving is attending to the people of the first three lokas. Then collectively, the fourth one is Trijagatam Sanjeevani. Now those who have cleared their delusion, those who have inspired by the thoughts of the jnanis, and those who are evil-minded have been terrified and they are agonized, then they are now available for further progress. For those people who have come up to this level of progress, this medicine will become Sanjeevani. They will give them another lease of life which will push them into Maharloka, the fourth one. Thereafterward, they will not return. First three lokas, there is a coming and going, there is a birth and death. Once you are pushed out of these three lokas into fourth one, then it becomes a Sanjeevani for all those living in these three worlds to push themselves up into the fourth loka. And then the last three lokas are indicated by three terms. Bhaktatyanta hitam. For the devotees, it is the most necessary, essential for their ultimate goal. Atyanta hitakari. Bhaktatyanta hitam aushadam. Then bhava bhavya pradvamsanam. It removes the fear about this samsara or bhava. The samsara is a sense of becoming. I was Brahman and now I have become a mortal jiva. So I am now subject to fears and terrors, and this medicine will relieve me, make me fearless. If you remember the Prashnopanishad, he says, Na kampate saha. The one who has employed his mind in meditation for chanting Om collectively, he will become fearless. So here Bhava Bhaya Pradvamsanam will lead you to the next loka, and Shreya Praptikaram is the last one. The speciality of this medicine, that it leads to the attainment of Shreyas in life, and that is called liberation. the mukti, and the medicine also leads us to that last loka called Satya Loka, where he is liberated. This is called Krama Mukti, and the Gita advice of Lord is the medicine for that. Whatever may be the patient, the Lord treats him, and his treatment is a given situation for him, which he must face. So every situation is his will that I should go through. By going through that, the medicine will work, and then it will give him certain experiences. Through these experiences, I will grow and evolve. We wonder many times that why for me this kind of sorrow, and for that fellow he is going by all foul and foul means, and he is prospering. Why this is? Even in ordinary hospital we see, if somebody has a fractured leg and his leg is hanging up with weights, whereas the other fellow is admitted for indigestion and constipation and all that. So both the patients are side by side. While the man who has broken his leg, he gets a full-fledged meals, whereas the other patient gets only barley water. Now, why this difference in treatment? That person is suffering from indigestion. He looks at the other patient. He says he is getting a full-fledged meal when he has broken his leg. Now, I have not done that. It's only inside something, some problem, and I'm denied that lunch. So we cannot compare like this. Each patient is unique in its complaint, and doctor knows what kind of treatment is to be given to him, what kind of food that is to be given to him. Therefore, no comparison. Each one gets his own lot, and through the situation. So his situation is his first treatment, which we should face and get the resultant experience of happiness, sorrow, success, failure, disappointment, whatever it is. That is necessary, and it will work as a medicine for him to grow out. Now, this is, in short, Acharya's plan for us. If the Arjuna is denying outrightly the authority of the scriptures and his own teacher, actually he said, Yat Shreyasyat Nishchitam Bruhitan me Shishyasteham. So he should listen to the teacher, and he may ask questions, but he cannot say that whatever you are saying is not really feasible because mind is, restless. So here, Acharya must have thought over this and meditated upon and given him a separate package of project where the jiva can work independently and go to his own home, called or represented by the word Om, and here it is represented lastly by the word Shreya Praptikaram. The path of the Shreyas is for liberation. Path of the prayers is for a continuous sorrows and sufferings and going to hell. So with this, Acharya in these 5 verses is offering us a project to be worked out, and nowadays we are passing through those situations where we have got more time to think over, reflect upon pros and cons by weighing the pros and cons, putting on our one side the worldly desire fulfillments, and on the other side the godly experiences of joy and bliss. And wherever you get the bliss, we should go in for that. It is left to us. But later on he is told that we will never be happy by pursuing the path of the prayers or path of the pleasant, because it will give us happiness, the moments of happiness preceded and followed by sorrows. Therefore, our purpose will not be served by going that way. Hence, the Acharya will now propose a project wherein we have to go through step-by-step exercise, and lastly, we will find his advice that please follow the words of the Lords or words of advice of Lord Krishna in Gita, and you will get answers to all these problems that a patient has got in all the 7 lokas. And finally, it will gradually lead to the last state of supreme bliss. With this, we offer whatever little we have worked on this. We have expressed our understanding. You too can carry on this exercise, and working out this exercise is our tribute to Acharya. Whatever little we can think of, he will give us the necessary inspiration and strength for us to work on this, because he has himself suggested this kind of project, and this advice to our mind therefore is worth executing, enacting, and benefiting thereby. With these words, I'll stop here and we'll conclude with Shanti part. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय, तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय, मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ।